All right, Dante's Boxing Nation over here with the man, the miracle man,
I'm
Danny
feeling happy,
Jacobs.
Dante.
Man.
I got a chance to meet you, brother.
Oh,
it's been
man.
an honor, man.
I
I've always followed your work.
I appreciate
I want to say I appreciate you for supporting the sport of boxing, doing such a positive job supporting us fighters. You put our lives on the line, and you do such a tremendous, respectful job of doing what you do for us, and I want to commend you, brother.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Canelo Alvarez had a pretty interesting admission that he made recently in one of the interviews talking about his next opponent, Danny Jacobs, that he's fighting against on May 4th. Canelo Alvarez, he compared Danny Jacobs to Gennady Golovkin, and he said that Danny Jacobs is a much tougher and more difficult fight than a Gennady Golovkin. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and quote exactly what he had to say. Quote, "There are tough fighters and there are difficult fighters. Jacobs is a bit of everything. He's difficult and tough. Golovkin is a very strong fighter who is always coming forward, and that is complicated in a fight, but they have different styles. It's going to be a difficult, complicated fight, more because of the mentality that he has. He has a mentality where anything can come at him, and that pleases me. That's how good fights are made, when there is a strong-minded fighter who can surpass any obstacle. I am happy that he is my opponent in May to give me a good fight, and that is the only thing I want in each of the fights I have." End quote. You know what Canelo just said right there, it tells us a couple different things about Canelo. It tells us a couple different things about the truth, which I always talk about. The first thing it tells me is Canelo Alvarez, he is a very observant, very aware fighter. His acknowledgement of what is in front of him is what makes Canelo Alvarez a good fighter, because he's truly doing his homework when it comes to Danny Jacobs. You know, I tell you guys on this channel all the time, you can lock up the truth, throw away the key, but that truth is going to find a way to break free. Almost everything that I say is often corroborated with what the fighter is actually saying. But yet these same fans will start crying when I say the same thing the fighter is. Canelo Alvarez just said right there that Danny Jacobs is a more difficult and tougher fight than a Gennady Golovkin. And since fans, they love to try to take things out of context and try to retranslate what Canelo just said, notice Canelo Alvarez, he never said it was because Golovkin was older. He never mentioned Golovkin's age at all. He was simply talking about Golovkin's style versus Danny Jacobs' style. He said Gennady Golovkin is more of a fighter that just comes forward. What he basically meant was Golovkin is far more predictable than a Danny Jacobs. See, because Canelo, what he was able to do against Golovkin in the rematch, he was able to take away Golovkin's biggest strength, which is coming forward. Golovkin is comfortable when he has his opponent backing up. I've been telling you guys for years, Golovkin cannot fight going backwards, or he cannot fight on the inside. He's more of a mid-range hooker. He needs distance to land his hooks, and he likes to set up everything with his great jab, because Golovkin's, one of his best weapons is a strong, stiff jab. His jab kind of reminds me of a Vladimir Klitschko type of jab, because Vladimir had a great power. But just like Vladimir Klitschko, once you get past Golovkin's jab, then it's an easier fight for you. And that's how it was for Canelo Alvarez. Whenever Canelo was on the inside, whenever he was backing up Gennady Golovkin, Golovkin was uncomfortable in the ring. That's why he would back up. That's why he was forced to back up, because he wanted to once again be in a position, he wanted to be at a distance where because that jab is what kept Golovkin in both of the fights with Canelo Alvarez. But you know, once again, I go back to the comparison and the admission that Canelo Alvarez he made, because when you listen to these fans, they'll have you believe that Danny Jacobs is nowhere near on Gennady Golovkin's level. But when you hear the actual fighter that these fans are defending, Even the man that you guys are defending disagrees with you when he says that Danny Jacobs is a better fighter than Gennady Golovkin. I told you guys on many videos, the safest fight right now for Canelo and Golovkin is against each other. I told you guys this. I said the other opponents are more dangerous opponents for a Canelo or a Golovkin. And this is the reason why Golovkin and Canelo, they both want to fight against each other before they fight against anyone else. Now remember, Canelo initially and Golden Boy, they actually reached out to Golovkin first. That was their first choice for May 4th. It was Golovkin. But Golovkin did not want that fight right away. He turned down the fight. That's when they went with Danny Jacobs, which once again proves everything that I've been telling you guys. I'm gonna tell you something else. There's no doubt about it. Canelo Alvarez, he feels the same way about Jermall Charlo. There's no doubt about it. Canelo Alvarez feels that Jermall Charlo is a way more dangerous opponent than a Gennady Golovkin. And once again, this has nothing to do with age, because Canelo Alvarez was specifically talking about Canelo or Gennady Golovkin's style. I've been saying this for years. Oscar De La Hoya, he said, I interviewed him years ago, and he said the same thing that I was saying. He said, Golovkin cannot fight going backwards. If you back him up, he cannot fight. He will be uncomfortable. And that is exactly what Canelo Alvarez did to Golovkin in the rematch. So my point is, if Oscar De La Hoya was saying this like about 4 years ago, then clearly it had nothing to do with Golovkin's age when it comes to his flaws. So the truth, as it always does, has come to light once again. This always happens, guys. This always happens. The fighters that these fans try to defend, they end up saying something corroborating everything that I've been telling you guys. But these fans, they didn't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the truth because it doesn't line up with their agenda. The vast majority of these Golovkin and Canelo fans are extremely hypocritical and contradict themselves on a regular. I mean, do you guys remember before Golovkin fought against Danny Jacobs? Before Gennady Golovkin fought against Danny Jacobs, that was supposed to be an easy fight because everyone was only thinking about Danny Jacobs getting knocked out. He had already been knocked out previously, and everyone was saying Danny Jacobs is a bum. This fight ain't gonna go past 3 rounds. He's already been knocked out before. And I think that's the way Golovkin thought. I think that's the way Abel Sanchez thought. They were thinking, if this guy has already been knocked out by lesser opposition, imagine what a guy who has 18, 20 knockouts in a row, this monster Golovkin is going to do to him. So Team Golovkin and all the fans, they thought that Danny Jacobs was almost like a cherry pick. They thought it was an easy fight. All of a sudden it becomes Golovkin's most difficult fight, and a lot of people thought that Danny Jacobs won the fight. Now the same people who were saying that Danny Jacobs was a bum and he would get knocked out in 3 rounds, now they use Danny Jacobs as the opponent to try to defend Golovkin's resume. Well, he beat Danny Jacobs. Well, he fought against Danny Jacobs. So that's the reason why he's great, or he's pound for pound, or he's this and he's that. But you can't have it both ways. Danny Jacobs can't be a bum before the fight who has no chin. But now because to defend Gennady Golovkin's resume, or defend Gennady Golovkin not facing this guy or that guy. And speaking of Gennady Golovkin's resume, it's funny because even though Canelo and Golovkin, they've had somewhat of a similar type of career, I've always told you that I give Canelo far more credit, because even though Canelo may take a little time to get in the ring with the tougher opponents, he will get in the ring with them. Golovkin, on the other hand, he's trying his best to avoid tough competition. Like I said, when he fought against Vanes Martirosyan, because the Canelo Alvarez fight fell through because he failed that drug test. Golovkin had a great opponent that he could have fought at that time, and it was his mandatory. Not only was it a good fight, but it would have been a bigger fight. He could have fought his IBF mandatory Sergey Derevyachenko, but instead he decided to give up the belt and fight against Vanes Martirosyan, a guy who had never fought at middleweight before, hadn't fought in 2 years, which if Vanes Martirosyan was on a coincidental list, these same fans, they would be calling him inactive bitch like they was calling Andre Ward. All of a sudden, being inactive was like the worst thing you could be in the sport when it came to Andre Ward. But all of a sudden, because Vanes is fighting against Golovkin and he's not on the coincidental list, they ain't got nothing bad to say about Vanes Martirosyan or Gennady Golovkin for even taking the fight. We know what time it is at the end of the damn day. And I don't give a damn how much you Golovkin fans cry. If you gonna keep coming over here, I'm gonna keep giving your ass the damn truth. I done already tried to push out these ignorant racist fans and told them not to come over here, that I don't even want them here, but they won't stop watching my videos, no matter what I say. So if that's the case, your ass is gonna keep getting the damn truth. I mean, it just never ceases to amaze me. The fact that you have fans that will call an all-American biased or racist for giving credit to other black all-Americans that they believe don't deserve the credit. I mean, so you guys could really understand this. Imagine if people were migrating to Mexico because they felt Mexico, you know, life is better over there, there's more opportunities. So they want to migrate to Mexico, they want to raise their family, they want their family to be considered, their kids to be considered Mexican citizens, etc., etc., etc. Now imagine we're all boxing fans, right? Imagine white people, black people migrating over to Mexico, but yet the whites and the blacks, they always root against the actual Mexican fighter who has been in Mexico for generations and generations. He doesn't show allegiance to a different country like we show allegiance to America and Mexico, right? They only show allegiance to Mexico like a Juan Manuel Marquez. Now imagine we're all calling ourselves Mexican citizens, but we root against the Mexican fighter. We say they're bum, they're overrated, they're this, they're that, they're boring, etc., 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 right? And then whenever a Mexican reporter gives Canelo Alvarez the credit that he actually deserves, these American Mexican fans that once again live in Mexico and they are Mexican citizens, they're saying that the Mexican reporter is biased and he's racist because he's giving Canelo Alvarez the credit that he deserves. Because he's given his own countrymen the credit that he deserves. We're not talking about giving credit to a fighter that's a bum, that doesn't deserve the credit. In this scenario, we're talking about a top pound for pound fighter. We're talking about Canelo, for example. Once again, let's just imagine it was a string of extremely talented Mexican fighters. Like, let's just say hypothetically, let's reverse the roles. Let's just say Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, Tank Davis, Deontay Wilder, and the list just goes on and on, Andre Ward, hell, let's even say Floyd Mayweather. Let's say all of these fighters were Mexican fighters, and you had an all-Mexican reporter giving them the credit that they actually deserve. And yeah, you got these white and black fans saying, that Floyd Gonzalez, he ain't as good as you say he is. Why are you always trying to make it seem like he's the best? You're so biased. That Andre Diaz, he ain't as good as you say he is. Terrence Garcia is overrated. Who has he beat? Who would be the racist in that scenario? That's a rhetorical question, right? This is exactly what we deal with in America. This only happens in America. It would never happen in the Philippines. It would never happen in Mexico, in the UK. This only happens in America, where you have people in America that root against their own country and root for another country just off of skin complexion. I got a lot more to say when it comes to these double standards, but we're going to talk more about it. I'm bringing the live show back very soon, so we'll talk about it when we do the live show, and once again, you guys can call in. But once again, man, for the fans that say you don't want to hear this truth that I be dropping, I don't want you here. So instead of you saying you don't want to hear this, there are hundreds of channels to watch on YouTube. Why would you keep coming to my channel in particular if you don't want to hear the truth? The only reason you would keep coming is because you know deep down it's the truth. It just burns you up to hear it. That would be the only reason you would come to my channel. Something else, a point that I made before, back in the day when racist ass Jim Lampley and the gang was calling fights on HBO, if we wanted to watch our fights in high definition and you couldn't stream it for free and all that kind of stuff, going through all of that, you had to listen to Jim Lampley. You had no choice but to listen to his voice. No matter how much you hated him or whatever, no matter how racist or biased you thought he was, you had no choice but to listen to his voice while you're watching the fight. And that is the difference from you guys watching Jim Lampley or listening to Jim Lampley and listening to me. With me, once again, you have tons of channels that you can watch. You are choosing to come over here and watch my videos. You're choosing to support my views and everything else. You're choosing to do that. Just like you choose to go to McDonald's over Burger King. You chose to walk into that restaurant, give them your money, right? You weren't forced to. So once again, man, I got to get up out of here, take care of some business. I have more to say, but once again, we'll finish this conversation when we do a live show. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
Take your striking game to the next level with the Focus Ball. Dramatically improve footwork, timing, accuracy, reflex, head movement, and striking technique. Train every time, everywhere with the Focus Ball.